So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show, and you know, I've got a great topic, and I don't think we've talked about this before, and if we have, it's been years, and you know, but it's getting more and more common to buy a home as an unmarried couple, or as you know, LGBTQs, you know, a couple that isn't formal, you know, those types of arrangements are obviously more and more common. And, you know, it's interesting, more and more common, you know, from real estate ownership. And what I think is interesting about it is the legal ramifications and you know, the things that are in place now about ownership, and what advice you can get. So first and foremost, always talk to a real estate attorney. I mean, you know, if you're in one of those situations like that where you want to make sure to you know, to protect your ownership, and they're going to want to make sure to protect their ownership, talk to a real estate attorney. But Florida Realtors had this article last week, and I thought it was really, really good. And 16% of first-time home buyers in 2017 were unmarried couples. The highest share the organization has recorded since 1981. So, you know, again, becoming more and more common. You know, millennials, apparently, they also don't, you know, they don't want to buy a house, they also don't want to get married. Right. True. But the reality is that there's some things that you can do to help smooth that out in case turmoil happens. So
it's funny because the things like the house and the assets and those are the difficult parts of divorce. So just because you're not, you know, married doesn't mean that something like that
isn't going to become difficult.
Extremely difficult to separate. And gosh, that's a slippery.
So this, you know, so some attorneys that got together with NAR and FAR and put this thing together. And the first recommendation is sign a prenup for the house. In other words, agree up front who gets what, who owns what percentage, and how you're taking title. You know, that way it's clear if something happens. It's, you know, look, no one ever wants to talk about that, but the reality is if you don't talk about it, that's what ends up causing, you know, turmoil. So signing a prenup, so to speak, for the house. Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily, I don't think they're considering that as the actual legal document, but it's kind of like just the analogy, you know, that more or less you're saying what happens. You know, get that agreed upon in writing up front, and an attorney can help you draft that. Choosing the right type of title. So there's sole ownership, in which only one name is recorded, and that person has all rights and responsibilities of ownership. That means if you're an unmarried couple, it's in one person's name, and, you know, split up happens, you don't have anything to do with the house, period. The second one, joint tenancy. Each person owns 50% of the property. If a tenant dies, so, you know, if you're an unmarried couple and one of your, you know, and your partner, you know, dies, the person's share automatically transfers to the other joint tenant. Tenants in common allows unequal ownership. So you could own 75% stake while your partner owns 25%. And I think that is, you know, again, some of this is going to depend on the financial contributions, how long you've been together, you know, whether or not it's considered one or the other's actual house and the other person just lives there for a time. So there's a lot of things where you have to discuss. So if you are buying a home and your unmarried spouse or partner is involved in that home buying process, you have to be really, really cautious and get all that out there up front. So definitely something to pay attention to, choosing the right type of title, and then agreeing up front what happens in the event of a split. And we've unfortunately been on the other side of those sales. We've had the sales where the unmarried couple is buying a home, and during the process of buying a home they split up. Boy, those are fun.
Well, yeah, and
those are really fun. Yeah, I mean, I celebrate. Those are just a heck of a lot of fun. And then also the other ones where, you know, the house is bought, and then the spouse that isn't on title at all wants to call us to have us put the home on the market because they're an owner too. They were duped, and they don't own anything, and they're not on anything. We've had those happen.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that you want to, you know, you want to get all your information on the phone. You want to be prepared with, you want to ask the right questions. And the good thing about us is we do so many transactions. I mean, we're very used to pretty much every scenario. Well, there's always one that surprises you. Yeah. But we can get you through it. It's just, it's bumpy.
Yeah. The ones that surprise me are like the closings that happen when the person's in jail. But closing still happens. Like
we just had that happen.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Remarkable. How that happens, I don't even know. But hey, look,
power of attorney.
Closing happens. So you it is what it is. But the other element, to that is, by getting that all, up front, you're going to prevent hassle for yourself later on should it not work out. But nonetheless, get it all agreed upon, figure out how you're going to hold title. The last piece of advice they had, which I absolutely love, leave your parents at home.
Yes, agreed.
Let me tell you.
Agreed.
I have to tell you,
Oh my gosh.
I love my kid, and I'm sure when she gets to a point where she buys real estate because it's what I do for a living, that I'm probably going to have some involvement in the very first house that she buys. But there's a little bit too much of that going on out there where, adults, are buying a home and, mama's making all the calls and decisions, I mean, like,
I would
people
cringe.
grow up a little bit.
I would cringe when they would show up on the showing with their parents, or when we would go out for a day and I was a buyer agent and I was carting the parents around, and really the parents were
The decision
way involved. And I mean, of course you want to get their opinion.
Yeah,
But-
and it's not as if, look, and sometimes parents are putting up money, so you're not saying, we don't want you there.
No.
It's not that. It's that when you have that many hands in the cookie jar, boy, it's really hard to get a decision
Well,
made.
I think some people, and I think this is natural of just some people's personality, some people think they're useful when they're, putting up roadblocks and asking really out-of-the-way questions, and almost like trying to put up roadblocks to feel useful. So sometimes parents do that, and it creates a lot of issues. And of course you want to make them feel comfortable, you want to answer all their questions, but my gosh, sometimes it just goes way out in
I
left
think
field.
the other side of it is that, you also have to know up front who is the actual real buyer. Because sometimes the parents are the buyers.
Yeah.
It's going in their name, and they're going to let the kids live in it or rent it back, or they're buying it for the kids. So there's always that confusion. But the point they make in this article is leaving your parents out of the process for deciding who gets what of the house.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
wow.
So not just the home buying process in and of itself, which I think can be very challenging too, but leave the parents out of the decision of what you do for title and how much your unmarried spouse should get of the home and how much they should contribute, because that really is more like even though you're not married, that's really more of a decision that a couple should make on their own, is what the article is saying. Not what I'm saying, but what the article's saying.
I feel like everything I said still applies.
It does.
It does still apply. But we're going to get some nasty grams from parents that are going to say something like, well, I'm paying for everything, I want to make all the decisions. That's great, and I'm sure when your 42-year-old son is getting help from you buying his house, I'm sure, you making all the decisions makes him feel empowered as a man. But it's the reality of what we deal with sometimes, and let them get out there and make some decisions. I'm a firm believer that people they learn the most and they grow the most when they have the opportunity to make their own decisions and make their own mistakes. And I think that's what I believe in as being a parent for our teenager. And when she gets to that place, that's the thing we're going to, encourage her to do. We do it now. The other day, for example, she had this speech that she had to do. And she was convinced that she was going to bomb. She wasn't prepared. She didn't have enough time to do this. She's playing basketball, yada, 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 yada. And she does so great in school, but I almost wanted her to bomb the speech. And I know that sounds really bad, but it's because I feel like she learned so much more from that about how to prepare and how to do better. And so here's what happened. I told her, just think positive, just practice all day, practice tonight. She crammed, and she got to school that morning, and she texts us wanting us to come pick her up. She doesn't feel good. And she doesn't feel good because she's going to bomb her speech, and she's afraid she's going to bomb her speech, so she wants another day to practice. So we said, no, Esau, this is where you learn, this is how you grow. Well, guess what ends up happening? She gets to speech class, and they don't even get to her.
Oh.
They don't even get to her. Like, they didn't even, she had another day to practice, and she didn't have, so nonetheless, but had she, and just like had the unmarried couple got out and bought a house without mom and dad's influence, I think they'd learn more. Even if they made some mistakes, I think they'd learn more and they'd grow more from that experience. And give them the wisdom, certainly, but also let them live a little bit, let them make their own choices.